Welcome to U.S. Briefing. The content of the briefing includes efforts to bump Trump off the 2024 ballot raise fears of election chaos. Kentucky governor's race tests Democrats' ability to survive in Trump country. Russian strike hit soldiers at ceremony, Ukrainian officials say. Zelensky pushes U.S. for more aid, invites Trump to Ukraine. Telecom Italia board said to approve sale of network to KKR. Efforts to bump Trump off the 2024 ballot raise fears of election chaos. Bloomberg. A number of lawsuits have been filed seeking to disqualify Donald Trump from running again for president, based on his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Lawyers and judges involved in the cases believe it will ultimately be resolved by the U.S. Supreme Court, and the justices could be thrust into the election fray as state election officials prepare to finalize ballots in early 2024. The cases center on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which prohibits someone from holding public office if they took an oath to support the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection. Kentucky governor's race tests Democrats' ability to survive in Trump country. Washington Post. Andy Beshear took many opportunities to separate himself from a Democratic Party increasingly unpopular in Kentucky. The Kentucky governor's race, which culminates Tuesday, is testing a Democratic incumbent's ability to buck political trends in a state that backed Trump over Biden by 26 percentage points. If anyone can do it, political veterans say, it's Beshear, the son of another Kentucky governor who's banking on a strong personal brand and a laser focus on state and local economic issues. He has a high approval rating and a big cash advantage and, with attention-grabbing commercials, has also tapped into voter backlash to strict abortion bans, which snapped into place post-Roe v. Wade and handed Democrats a potent issue even in deep red America. The Kentucky governor's race has been a bellwether of sorts in the past 2 decades, consistently swinging the same way as the following year's presidential race. But Beshear is also benefiting from an unusual confluence of factors, limiting Democrats' ability to replicate his cross-party appeal. Members of both parties are quick to note that voters in Kentucky, where Democrats once held a large advantage in registrations, have seen a Beshear on the ballot for decades. Steve Beshear, Andy's father, was first elected to statewide office in 1979. Russian strike hit soldiers at ceremony, Ukrainian officials say. New York Times. Russian missiles struck a group of Ukrainian soldiers at an award ceremony in southern Ukraine, killing some and leaving others wounded, 2 senior Ukrainian military officials said Sunday. Zelensky pushes U.S. for more aid, invites Trump to Ukraine. South China Morning Post. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called on the United States to provide more funding to help his forces counter Russia and has invited former President Donald Trump to visit the conflict zone. Zelensky warned that if Russia were to attack NATO countries, American soldiers could be pulled into a greater European conflict if the U.S. does not step up its support. President Joe Biden has urged Congress to pass a $106 billion spending bill, with the majority of the funds going to Ukraine's defenses. However, the Republican-led House of Representatives passed its own funding plan, which did not include an increase in aid for Ukraine. Zelensky invited Trump, who has been critical of U.S. support for Ukraine, to visit Ukraine and witness the consequences of the conflict. Telecom Italia board said to approve sale of network to KKR. Bloomberg. Telecom Italia has agreed to sell its landline network to private equity firm KKR in a government-backed deal. The board of directors approved the sale without requiring a vote by shareholders, despite opposition from the carrier's largest shareholder, Vivendi. The deal values the network at about €20 billion, $23 billion, with an additional €2 billion to be earned if it is merged with the network of small rival Open Fiber. The sale will allow Telecom Italia to reduce its debt while allowing the government to retain oversight of the strategic asset. Vivendi is expected to challenge the decision. White House frustrated by Israel's onslaught but sees few options. Washington Post. The Biden administration has been trying to temper anger in the Arab world over Israel's ground invasion of Gaza by expressing concern about civilian suffering. The administration has privately urged Israel to scale back its counterattack and consider proportionality in its attacks, but has been unable to exert significant influence on Israel to change its course. Arab leaders have told the U.S. that it must do more to force Israel to curb its operation in Gaza, which has killed nearly 10,000 Palestinians, including thousands of children. However, the U.S. has limited leverage over Israel as it is its largest military backer, and Washington has asked Congress for an additional $14 billion in aid for Israel in the wake of the Hamas attacks. The Biden administration now finds itself with little influence over a key ally whose military campaign could affect everything from the global economy to America's diplomatic relationships in the region. Walter Davis, basketball star with a velvet touch, dies at 69. New York Times. Former Phoenix Suns shooting guard Walter Davis has died aged 69. Davis, who was a three-time NBA All-Star, suffered from addiction to drugs and alcohol during his career and was suspended by the league in 1987. He was traded to the Denver Nuggets in 1988, and later moved to the Portland Trail Blazers before retiring in 1992. In more recent years, Davis worked as a scout for the Washington Wizards. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds to endorse Ron DeSantis for president. Washington Post. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is expected to endorse Ron DeSantis for president on Monday, according to anonymous sources. This endorsement is unusual for an Iowa governor to make during a contested Republican presidential primary. DeSantis has put significant effort into campaigning in Iowa, with one-third of his staff based there. A recent poll showed DeSantis tied for second place with Nikki Haley at 16%. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the 6 Degrees world, here to bring you the latest news from around the globe. Today, we have a diverse range of stories, from legal battles in the U.S. to political races in Kentucky, from conflicts in Ukraine to the sale of a major telecom network in Italy, and even the world of sports and entertainment. So, strap in and let's dive right into it. First up, we have the intriguing case of efforts to disqualify Donald Trump from running for president in 2024. Some lawyers and judges believe that this legal battle will ultimately be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court, which could potentially throw the justices into the election fray once again. It seems like Trump just can't stay away from the spotlight, even after leaving the Oval Office. Will he be able to make a comeback? Only time will tell. Moving on to the Kentucky governor's race, we have Democrat Andy Beshear trying to survive in Trump country. Kentucky, a state that strongly supported Trump over Biden in the 2020 election, poses a significant challenge for any Democrat. However, Beshear, the son of a former Kentucky governor, is banking on his personal brand and a focus on state and local economic issues to win over voters. And let's not forget the power of attention-grabbing commercials and appealing to voter backlash on certain issues. It'll be interesting to see if Beshear can buck the political trends in this deep red state. In international news, tensions continue to rise between Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is pushing for more support from the United States, including increased funding, to counter Russia's aggression. Zelensky has even invited former President Donald Trump to visit the conflict zone. Now, wouldn't that be an interesting trip? But let's not forget the delicate balancing act the Biden administration has to perform, trying to temper anger in the Arab world over Israel's ground invasion of Gaza. The U.S. finds itself with limited leverage over Israel, its largest military backer, as it grapples with the consequences of the conflict. On a lighter note, we bid farewell to former Phoenix Suns shooting guard Walter Davis, who passed away at the age of 69. Davis was a talented player, a three-time NBA All-Star, but also battled addiction during his career. Despite his struggles, he continued to contribute to the world of basketball as a scout for the Washington Wizards. Rest in peace, Walter Davis. And finally, in the world of politics, we have Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds expected to endorse Ron DeSantis for president. Now, this endorsement is quite unusual during a contested Republican presidential primary, but DeSantis has been making his presence known in Iowa with a dedicated campaign effort. It's still early in the race, but DeSantis seems to be gaining traction. Will he be a formidable force in the 2024 election? We'll have to wait and see. That wraps up today's news from around the world. From legal battles to political races, conflicts to endorsements, we've covered quite a range of stories. Now, it's your turn, dear viewers. What are your thoughts on these topics? Do you have any burning questions? Let's start a discussion, and remember, in the 6 Degrees world, every opinion matters. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the interconnectedness of our world. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.